allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Singh?
Here.
Shipman?
Here.
Reichner?
Here.
Henry?
Here.
Ister?
I want to announce that after the meeting, down in my office, we're going to have an executive session. Mr. Short will talk about personnel. And before we get into everything else, I couldn't be at the WVIA thing for personal reasons, but for everybody, if there's anybody in this room that did anything for that, to help that become a reality, I've heard nothing but great things about it. All kinds of people from out Pennsylvania that I knew called me about it. So, again, if you had something to do with that, thank you very much. Because everybody I've talked to said it was a huge, huge success, so we appreciate that. Audience comment on any agenda items? Okay. We have engineering, 4th Street traffic upgrades.
Stand here.
You got her, Jamie.
All right.
I wouldn't understand in the front room, I thought we're just dancing
Okay.
That's not going away.
I'm blushing.
Sorry, Jamie.
All right. I guess I have everything on the agenda tonight. Engineering 4th Street traffic signal upgrades. PennDOT has a automated red light enhancement or something like that grant, hourly grant that they do each year that we want to put in for intersections on 4th Street, 4th and Arch, 4th and Reagan, and 4th and Packer. Barry Gavaric with PennDOT Municipal Services recommended that when you're putting in for that grant for traffic signal upgrades, you should have the majority of your engineering done up front, so that when you apply for it, you can say that you have that done and your project is shovel ready, and then you're more likely to get an award, and then you can go through and finish the design and do the project. We asked CES Engineering, who we've been working with on the Chestnut Street project and demolition projects, to provide a quote for that engineering. He also works with a traffic signal engineer who will do the PennDOT hourly grant application for you on your behalf for free, so there is no additional charge for that part of it. But the upfront phase 1, which is the preliminary engineering for the traffic signal and intersection design for these 3 intersections on 4th Street, is $63,000. And then phase 2 would only be done at $12,000 should that grant be awarded for those upgrades. So this evening, I would ask that you take action to approve that CES engineering agreement. It is being funded, I believe, through the Liquid Fuels Program.
Correct. Should we do this as we go here, Jamie?
Yes, one at a time, please.
Okay, it's your money, do you want to make the motion?
Yes, I'll make, just so everybody's aware of it, we're still with the sweeper, the Chestnut Street project and this, we're still gonna have a little bit of surplus, so we're not completely. But I'd like to make that form of a motion.
Second.
Shipman?
I have a question.
Yes.
If we spend this $63,000, is it pretty certain we're going to get the grant behind that, or are we just hoping?
I think it's still, it has to be approved by PennDOT, so there is no guarantee. You're much more certain to be awarded if you have it done. If you don't do this part of it, you won't get the grant. But no, there is no guarantee that you will get it. But you will have this work done then, and then you can work towards finding money to cover the cost of construction.
And one other thing, John, we're saying it's a PennDOT highway. When I talked to Montford Bill a good 6 months ago, they said anything like this we're doing, they'll also support it with a letter and so forth, because it's a PennDOT road, and being the fact our gas tax went up on this transportation bill, all kind of money is coming out through the next 3 to 3 years, just new projects, all kind of projects actually. Anything highways, bridges, the roads themselves, updating intersections.
Jamie, is there any time limit on this? If we do the study now, does that mean if it's 3 years later that we get the money? Is that an issue?
No, this is just basically preliminary engineering. So it's just getting the design and everything up so that when the project gets funded, we can bid it out and go.
But the grant opens June.
June, yes, I think they're due in June.
Okay. We have a first motion.
Shipman?
Yes.
Reichner?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Ister? Singh?
Yes.
Okay, the second thing again is engineering. This is on Chestnut Street. It's mostly just an update so you know. We are now including the water, sewer, and stormwater improvements with the Chestnut Street project. So when this project is completed, it will actually be a complete street reconstruction from below the ground all the way up through the streetlights and trees. The municipal authority is going to continue to work with CES Engineering since they are the current engineer working on the street project. They said they would go ahead and work with him to do the engineering on their water and sewer and stormwater projects. So we're going to be getting that started with a kickoff meeting on Wednesday at 10 a.m. We're just rolling it into the project, so basically what will happen is whatever grant funding we get, we'll use to cover all of those costs. If there's any costs that we can't cover, the municipal authority is willing to pay. So there's really no additional cost to the city at this point. I mean, if you want to take action on that, you can, but I don't think so. Just basically information. Another piece of information for you. Recently, I was looking at the idea of doing a CDBG competitive grant for the city for Chestnut Street to help pay for those water, sewer, and stormwater infrastructure projects. And when I went to DCED about it to my grant manager, like you're supposed to do before you do a competitive, she said, well, I don't think cities can submit for a competitive. And I said, why? Well, it's only for towns, townships, and boroughs, she said. And they sent me the copy of their guidance that says that, and I wrote back and said, well, the state law, Act 179, says any entitlement entity can apply that has a population less than 10,000. So they ran it through legal, and it turned out I was right. So we can go ahead and apply for a competitive for that. So what my plan is to get Tyler, the newest member of our staff at CEDACOG, to work with me to get a competitive application done on behalf of the city, submitted to DCD for about $500,000 for the Chestnut Street project to be used for the water and sewer part of it. What that will involve is we'll have to have a public hearing to create the project, and then we'll have to have a final hearing when we close it out. But it's basically the same as CDBG application, but there's a lot more that goes into writing the narrative because you're obviously competing for it instead of just entitled to it. So if you guys are all right with that, Tyler and I will start moving forward with the process to get that grant application prepared.
Yes.
That's good?
You need a vote on that, just RSA.
You don't need to vote if you don't want to.
Thank you for being aggressive in proceeding with that. Go ahead.
I gave this to Bill and I wrote, I win. And then he drew a picture of me under the bus, because that's what he said DC. All right, what else do I have here? 2013 project update. Well, before I do that, today, Steve Kushaloff, the public relations guy at CEDACOG, sent around a news release about the Transportation Alternatives Program that we applied for Chestnut Street as well. Looks like there are 4 other projects in our MPO in Bloomsburg, Lock Haven, Milton, and Northumberland. So on May 30th, each of these communities will be presenting their project to the MPO for their consideration. And then they develop priorities and rankings and send them to the state. It's a statewide program. So just for your information, there are 4 others in our MPO, and on the 30th, we'll be doing that presentation of our project for them. Chestnut Street is pretty well moving forward. We have that TAP grant that I just mentioned for $1 million for the streetscape stuff. We have the Keystone grant that Beverly Hutzel has indicated should be funded once they get their 2014 allocation of funding this summer. The municipal authority is working with CES on their engineering, and we're going to do the competitive. And basically, if there's any funding that we don't have for the municipal authority's part of the work, which is what we don't currently have covered, they would be willing to do a low-interest loan through Penvest to cover that. So I think we have a pretty good handle on that project. We're also going to discuss it with Representative Barletta when he's in town to see if there's any possibility of additional federal money available for this kind of project. Demolition, we just got our 2013 fund, so I'm paying off the bills that were sitting waiting for the 2013 money to get here. And Steinbachers will be back in town very soon to finish the restoration of the grass, so those projects will be done. And then I think right now what we'll do is we'll wait to finish paying off any of the legal fees and engineering fees and those fees for those projects before we decide on new projects to demolish. The redevelopment authority is auctioning some properties on the 1st and the 8th, so they're going to wait and see after that is done if any of the properties are left that didn't sell that need to be demolished. We'll then look at using that Keystone Communities Fund you got from the county to do those demolitions.
And Jamie Steinbach was in town today.
Good. The Oppenheimer Pleasure Grounds basketball court project, I'm gonna start that ER tomorrow after I take some pictures when I leave here. I think we're going to ask John Bukovich to work on the specs for us as the city's engineer. We have a finding somewhere from DCD that we are allowed to use the city's engineer to do that based on your city code saying that he shall do the work. But I can't find it, but it's somewhere. So I think we'll just work with John on that, since it's such a small project, there's no point in doing an RFP for engineering. It's gonna be simple technical specs to get that out. But that should be done this fall, provided nothing comes up that delays the paving or whatever, it shouldn't. We met the other day with the members from the fire company to talk about the ladder truck purchase. They think they're about a year out from making that purchase, and they're looking for some financial assistance on that. Jim, did you want to speak any more about that?
Other than the fact that they have not come up with a total price tag as of estimates, I've asked them if they bring something to council in writing to present. It would be almost like we did the last time, the funding process. John, I remember you were involved in paying it off that time. Of course, they're more expensive now than they were before. We're probably looking at funding of about $1 million. Now they're looking for other sources of revenue, but that's where they're at. $1.3 million less. The sale of their existing ladder truck would put us back to about $1 million. So that's where we're at now.
Wow, okay.
Okay, that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
Excellent job. New business, Rick, board appointment?
Yeah, we had two people resign from the hard board. I think it was Frankie Jones and Bob Snyder. Bob Snyder moved out of town. We're still looking for a realtor to get on the board, but I asked Lori Johnson to fill Bob's spot, being a business person in the historical district, and she said she would do that. So I want to make a motion that we have Lori Johnson fill the spot on the hard board that was vacated by Bob Snyder.
Reichner,
Yes.
Henry,
Yeah.
Eister, Persing,
Yes.
Shipman.
Yes.
So the open spot, Rick, is still, we need a real estate
Trying to
person.
find a realtor. And thank you, Lori, for stepping up.
Okay, approve of the pay invoices, John?
On the general fund, we have vouchers, we have bills totaling $46,806.37. And on the liquid fuels, we have one invoice for $400. Make a motion that we approve those invoices for payment.
Henry,
Yes.
Eister, Persing,
Yes.
Shipman,
Yes.
Reichner.
Is Megan here from SRI?
No, I am.
You are? Okay, young lady.
They're all sick, so they elected me.
Okay.
So, okay. The hometown banners benefit, the unveiling will be May 17th in Cameron Park. It's Armed Forces Day. The riverfront planning is going, the meeting went with the DCED Office of Tourism, went very well. They established the events for the current year. They're going to be having a Renaissance Festival, August 30th. And Wake the Lake this year is on June 7th. Let's see, the Riverfest is meeting monthly at McGuigan's. And the New Year's Eve celebration is meeting at SRI. The third or fourth Wednesday of the month, whenever Jill can make it. We kind of go that time. Membership, there was six new members added to the membership this month. And the Albright Center is seeking additional funding partners for the SPP program. We hired a new person, Craig, I think his last name is Jones or Johnson, and he is working on the Albright Center. They're requesting approval of purchase for the Albright Center. It has to be a, I can't think of the name. But whatever it is, they're trying to buy it, and they have to have,
Appraisal?
yes. That's it, but it's not it, but that's what it is. Okay, but they're working on that. And then the river cleanup is May 3rd, this Saturday. They're doing the river cleanup. So anybody that wants to get involved, Zach's taking your name, there's free lunch. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. So that's going on this weekend. And then May 10th is the Hill Neighborhood Yard Sales. Then the Town Banners is May 17th. The Porch Fest is May 17th. The Rain Garden Construction Workshop is May 31st. Wake the Lake is June 7th. A Rain Barrel Workshop is June 14th. The Community Yard Sale is June 14th. And the Garden Tours is June 28th. That's it.
Not many Saturdays left in your business.
Not many. There isn't many, because I'll tell you. And then there's a car show too, June 21st, the Rotary's doing the car show. So they're looking for cars for that. So that's all going on there, so it's gonna be busy.
What is the Porch Fest?
I think it's up in the Hill neighborhood where people they have porch, they go up and they have music and stuff up there. They have different people sing on different porches.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's what they did last year.
So if there's an extra porch, Rick's looking for a place to sing.
There you go, there you go, that works. And I did really like the WVIA thing too. I think it was done very well. It was, and I appreciated everybody going forward to do that, because it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but it worked.
Well, I was concerned about the timing, because we weren't getting any fresh pictures of anything blooming, that's for sure. You know, in the middle of the winter like that, so.
Yeah, but a lot of people put a lot of stuff out. It was very nice. It was good.
Audience comment, any audience comment in particular? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if any of you have ever heard of a racquetball thing called pickleball.
Pickleball. John does.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Must be something.
I begged the YMCA to maybe try to do it. When we were in Colorado, there are pickleball courts all over the place, indoor, outdoor. It's one of it is the fastest growing racquetball for older people, and I don't fall in that category, understand?
Right.
You know,
You've read about it.
yeah, but
Well, I don't have any idea what pickleball is, so what's it play on? Like tennis court or in?
well, the one in Colorado, we played indoor, they had a YMCA that knocked your socks off. It was unbelievable. But they set their nets up, and they had 4 nets. And all 4 courts, it just kept going and going and going. For 4 hours, we played pickleball. You just rotate. But anyway, you can play it indoor. I don't know what the outdoor courts are, but I know a lot of the snowbirds in Florida, in Sun City, it's just big. And I saw in the news, and I think it was Williamsport, is that where they tore the basketball courts down because of the drugs and stuff?
Yes, it
And they're gonna put pickleball courts in.
Was it like volleyball? You hit the ball over the net, you hit it, what do you?
Well, yeah, but it's not it's not like racquetball that you're running or tennis. It's more, you can play it with 2, but it's usually played with 4 people. And it's a small racket, short racket, and it's solid, and you play it with like a wiffle ball. And it's just more fun than, John, have you played it?
No, but our neighbors in Florida play it. And
It's
they-
just, and I don't know anywhere around here that
Outside?
Outside, they go, I don't know exactly what they do, but they use the tennis courts there.
right.
And play that, and they have a lot of fun. You're right, there's
It's just,
a lot of people are involved in it.
oh, it's just unbelievable, and I don't know if there's anywhere around here that I think you could get a lot of people interested in it, because like the Y, and I'm assuming in Florida, in Colorado. You don't pay, you know, it's just everybody goes from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock or whatever, and it's just a lot of
Well, we
fun.
have tennis courts, so we can look into it, maybe we can come up with a tournament just to see how
And
it
if
goes.
you want more information, it's on the computer, you can just type in pickleball and it'll come up. But it's just something for
All right, well, thank you for your suggestion, we'll look into it.
older people to do.
You were gonna get the first team together then for the tournament?
I've got them all lined up.
All right, we'll see what we can find for you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a comment on the Ready Rock flood wall project they're rebuilding. I was down to see it this week, I had the opportunity to see it, and it was explained to me how it is being built. And I really think that it's going to be a positive thing to our flood control. The way it was explained to me, the big rocks on the bottom weigh over 2,000 pounds, closer to 4,000. You don't see them because they're underground. So I think rather than us being so negative about it, we have to wait and see till it's a finished project and it gets tested, and I'm positive we're gonna be safe, from what I can see. So
Well, thank you.
people that live here in town, if they get the chance, they should go up over the wall and take that walk and take a look at it, because it's a project being very well done, from what I can tell. I'm not an architect, but I'd have them build a wall for me.
There you go. All right, thank you.
To add to that, Dave, I did some more research with Ready Rock. Here's a pamphlet out in Idaho, the Corps of Engineers, Army Corps of Engineers, uses Ready Rock in numerous projects. So the gentleman isn't here this evening to question the Ready Rock product, but once you get on the webpage and look at all the projects they use it for, the government, federal and state government uses Ready Rock all over. And they're for erosion control projects, waterfront project erosion control. So just, I have some flyers laying up there, anyone wants to grab one, go home on the internet and start looking around. Feel free.
Thank you. Anyone else?
If there's no one else, I would like to speak.
Well, you can
please.
speak even if there is somebody else.
Thank you. Regina Russell, community activist. Mr. Mayor, Council. As everybody can see, I'm an Afro-American female who lives in Sunbury and owns property in Sunbury. And I have community concerns that I try to cover all the residents and their health and safety issues when I bring it to the council. A month ago, during a city council meeting, I had brought up 4 properties that got my attention, and I was trying to get help from you, Mr. Mayor, and from Councilmember Reichner. Councilman Shipman was nice enough to ask me about one of the properties. He looked at a picture I had, and the next day, the trailer was gone with the hazardous materials that was on the trailer. I'm still not seeing anything done about the property at 238 South 4th Street, where there's a broken gutter that's held up by a tree branch, and it is covering, like it's hanging over a public sidewalk and held up by a branch. 354 Walnut Street, they're still permitted to park two vehicles obstructing 2 doorways. And by not correcting this issue and ignoring it, you're promoting and endangering the health and welfare of the disabled children. All doors to those homes should be accessible. You did say that there were 3 handicapped children in wheelchairs, and for the parking to be permitted there, blocking those entrances, it's very dangerous, and I certainly don't want to see anyone harmed. At 406 Walnut Street, still Councilman Eister's tenant continues to violate city ordinances in a residential district, violating 163283, which is other commercial vehicles. Now, when I came here tonight, you have a flatbed truck
with a commercial dumpster on top of it. That's the only thing I know how to call it. It's usually used in commercials or large businesses like your tractor people over there across 1115. I'm going to presume that this person has never received a fine and that Councilman Ister hasn't received a fine because it's still going on for like 3 years now.
Just let me ask you, what is 163283, what is it?
It's addressing other commercial vehicles being parked in a public way.
Is that the sidewalk issue you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that from our ordinance or is this a state ordinance?
It's quote-unquote V code. So V code is the name of the code book for Sunbury. And I've said this.
Do we use that, Mike, or is that something different?
No, it's a city ordinance.
That's the 5-foot thing, or the 4-foot thing, or, right? 5-foot thing, go ahead.
Also, I had addressed the fact that I live in a school hub zone, and the sidewalks are really bad. Starting at Spruce, coming to South 4th and Walnut, from Walnut and South 4th going to Church, from South 4th Street going to South Halls. I had also given you a website, and the website is for schools, basically. And you would get some federal funding that would help. It's called SafeRoutesPA.org. And,
I'm sorry, Regina, is that the Safe Routes to School program?
yes, ma'am.
That's been rolled into the Transportation Alternatives program that I talked about earlier. They took all of those and rolled them into one program.
So will that be able to take care of the sidewalks that I'm addressing? They look really bad.
That's an eligible project in that grant, yes.
Eligible,
Yeah, but this year's round is closed, so it will be next year.
that it could be looked at and improvements can be made
Well,
to
to
that
apply for that
neighborhood?
grant, for that specific grant will be next year.
All right, so you are familiar with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Jamie, when would be, excuse me just a minute, Jamie, when would be the next time we would be able to apply for the grant to fix those sidewalks?
That program was just due in earlier this month, so next year at this time.
So next spring?
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah.
I would also like to go back to, I did a right to know to ask, why did Councilmember Whitener publicly accuse me of filing false reports, false complaints with the code office, and threatened to have me arrested for doing so. And in the right to know, it says that there are no documents and that the code officers are not required to do reports after they investigate a complaint. So I would like to know what evidence did Councilman Whitener have to accuse me of filing false complaints and threatening to have me arrested for doing so?
Well, I can address that, but why would there be documents, and it was said in a public meeting here, so why would there be documents?
When, my question, sir, is that when people make complaints, when any of these residents make a complaint with the code office, does a code officer go and investigate that complaint?
Yes.
And after they investigate that complaint, do they come back and make a note in that person's file, the property that the complaint was made against and the property of the person who's calling? Is there a note made of that?
I don't think unless they find something. I'm gonna let Rick's department, so I'll let Rick answer.
The reason I made the statement to you is this, is since I've been councilman in January, I have responded to probably 15 or 17 complaints that you put out on Walnut Street. And I found 2 of them that had any validity to them at all. One was a roll-off that was parked about 2 foot onto the sidewalk, and it was removed The second one was the sidewalks on the property next to Mr. Eister's property that were skewed because of a tree. The gentleman was notified about temporary fix on the sidewalks and the tree removal, and I believe the gentleman removed the roll-off within 5 minutes of the time we were there. The rest of the complaints that you submitted at that time, since I've been in office, were unfounded. They were all parked on private property. The chief of police was down on 2 different occasions looking at the complaints, and he came with the same resolution that I came with. There was nothing wrong with what was there. Am I right, chief?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I still would like to know, do you do any reports?
No.
After you go in and you investigate, whatever your findings are there any reports in anyone's file?
No.
So
Unless
the
we
code
take-
officers do not make any notes at all
Unless-
regarding any complaints?
Unless we take action against that individual, there's no report.
How can you take action if there's no report, sir?
We can, if we see it, we talk to the client and we can give them a citation, we can give them a notice that they have a certain amount of time to rectify the problem, like the trailer on 4th Street that time, right? The gentleman was told, took care of it. Other than that, it's hard to make a report unless you want us to write down that every time that we had gotten a call that your reports were invalid. I don't see a problem with that, but and that's what the report would be, except for the 2 occasions that we looked at the sidewalks, which were there, and the tree was creating the problem. And we have talked to both homeowners in that instance, and they both got letters. And on the roll-off, Mr. Shaw, I believe his name was notified and left immediately and moved it because I was with Joe when he went to his house.
Well, it would seem that Sunbury is the only code office that does not do any reports after they investigate a problem.
Well, I can only speak for January, but I couldn't find a report on anything, even back the past 4 years, other than when a citation was written.
And I said it once, if I've said it several times. I have pictures for every complaint that I call the code office for. So I could see why you would not have a report, because you would not know what pictures I have to match the complaints.
When we got to look at the complaint, which I would say was within 15, 20 minutes after we were notified of them, they were not valid, except for the 2 occasions that I explained to you.
Again, sir, if you're going to accuse someone of filing false reports, you need to have evidence, and it needs to be documented. And yes, I would like all of those in my file.
That's why you, from here on out, are supposed to notify the police department.
And I'm still going to notify the code office
That's
because
more
they
than welcome,
are
because
code issues.
I'm going to ask the chief for a disposition on every report that you call in, or every, to find out whether they're valid or invalid. And then once we get a little bit of history, we'll go from there on.
Thank you.
Any other questions?